Hey everyone, and welcome to a new OpenRCT2 update video. Version 0.4.26 has been released, and the developers have called it climbing the north face of the Uxbridge Road.
Attempting to be the first man to successfully climb the north face of the Uxbridge Road.
Alright, in this video I will go over some of the most exciting changes, improvements and fixes that have been made in this release version. You can find the full changelog in the link that I will leave in the video description. Alright, let's get started. Alright, first off, if you're building a ride in OpenRCT2, in the build window you can see this little blue flag. You can actually use that to simulate a ride. And if you click it, a ghost vehicle will show up and will travel through the track, which is great to see if the speed of the track or the speed of the vehicle throughout the track is alright. And it's also a good way to see if the vehicle will actually make it through the track. However, if your track was incomplete and the ride mode is set to continue circuit block section mode, the ride would not actually spawn a train, would be unable to simulate it. But that has now been changed, so this ride is set to block section mode, and if we press the simulate button now, you can see it will now spawn one train which will travel through the track. So I think that's definitely an improvement over not being able to simulate the ride at all in this mode. Alright, next, OpenRCT2 now uses a new compression algorithm for the save files. Basically, what you will notice about this is that your save files will be around 10 to 20% smaller, and the compression and decompression of the save file should also be faster now. If you want to read more about this, the developers actually made a blog about this on their website. I'll also leave a link in the video description. There you can read all about it. It has some really nice graphs. So yeah, if you're interested in it, definitely give it a read. Okay, for the next change, I'm going to open up Imagination Mega Park, which is a park which has a huge amount of rides, 600 to be precise. And if you want to find a specific ride, you'll have to look quite long to find it. But we now actually have a search here on top. So let's search for something with mine, and you can see all the rides that have mine in the name now pop up, which I think is a very welcome change, especially for parks like these, which have a huge amount of rides. Alright, another change has been made to the ride window. You can see it has these headers now. We're in the status category, so here we can only sort by ride name in two directions. But if we choose a different one, let's choose total customers, for example. You can also click at the sort by total customers. So now you can see the highest one on top, but we can also sort by the lowest one on top. So we can sort in two directions. I believe it's for most of these, so that's really nice. Alright, you've probably seen the little loading windows that pop up when you open or close a park. But those should now also show up if you open the scenario editor, track designer or track designs manager. Now, unfortunately, my computer is quite fast, so we probably won't see it when I open the scenario editor. But if your computer is a bit slower, you will probably see this little window pop up with the loading screen. We will probably see it when we go back to the menu. You could see it very briefly. But yeah, that should now show up in more situations. Alright, next up, a little change was made to the land menu, or the land window. If you now hold down this button to select a land type, you can see that it now shows a little tooltip for every land type in the list. So if you were ever confused about what kind of land you were actually placing, now it should tell you. And the same goes for the land edge styles. You can see this rock, ice, wood, black, etc. Now, I talked earlier about the little loading window that would show up in some situations. And actually a new loading variant has been added. And this one is in the form of these Go Karts, which will travel along a piece of diagonal go-kart track. So it's always nice seeing a bit more variation, and I think this is also a nice addition. And it also, of course, shows off the new diagonal go-kart track pieces that were added to OpenRCT2. Okay, next up in OpenRCT2, new track sprites were added to the Go Karts. However, the Go Karts didn't actually have sprites for all of these track pieces, and especially these diagonal sloped Go Kart track pieces. So now you can only build these if the Go Karts that you are using actually have sprites for these track pieces. And also, as you can see, now they just stay grayed out. Now, if you still really want to build them, you'll have to enable cheats and then enable all drawable track pieces, and then you can still build these slopes as usual. But when the Go Karts pass over them, you may see some weird sprites every now and then. Now, in a recent update, the Go Karts got a lot of extra track pieces, and one of them was these large sloped turns. But yeah, it used to actually be that you couldn't actually build two of these in succession, because the height limit of the Go Kart track would just not allow two of these to be built on flat ground. So the developers have slightly increased the maximum support height of the Go Karts, so that you can now actually build a large turn like this without having to do any terrain modifications. Okay, the next change is probably a bit more technical, but the limit of Misc entities has been increased. And Misc entities cover stuff like litter or balloons that are flying around in your park. So that will allow people to do insane stuff, like you see here, where someone used plugins to generate this rainbow of balloons. And lots of other crazy stuff in the park. But yeah, we may see some insane people make use of this in the future. But this may also affect parks that are really large, where the amount of Misc entities could definitely be exhausted. Okay, here's a little detail for mazes. You can see these guests walking around in the maze, and from time to time you will see them jump up to take a look over the edges. But they will actually not do this if it's raining. So I will just show this. I will change the weather to rain. You may still see them jump a few times, but they should quickly stop doing that. Let's just speed it up a bit. Now, I'm not sure why this little detail was added, but yeah, maybe when it's raining the guests just want to try to seek shelter, or they just want to get out of the maze as quickly as possible. But yeah, you can see that they don't actually jump. Now, new weather types were added to OpenRCT2, which is the snow, heavy snow, and blizzard. And if there's heavy snow or when there's a blizzard, guests will now also not jump in the maze. But in other weather types, they should jump. As you can see here, I made the weather sunny again, and once again the guests are jumping in the maze. Alright, there have also been quite a few fixes in this release version. Well, first off, there used to be a bug with the camera, where if your mouse pointer was on a land edge and you zoomed in or out, it would actually jump to the wrong location. But it now no longer does that, and it will zoom in at the spot where your mouse pointer is, which I think is really nice, especially when you're building a park that has lots of vertical changes, like this park you see over here. Now, for this release version, there have been many fixes for all kinds of different coaster types that have to do with the way their supports are drawn. There were quite a few bugs with that, and yeah, I'm not going through all the fixes that were done in this release that have to do with supports, but there were many of them, and you can find all of them in the changelog. Okay, most people are already familiar with the game speeds that you can set using this button here. So there's normal speed, double speed, even more speed. This is even faster, and then the speed after this is ludicrously fast. And for a park like this, which is so big, it's actually way too fast, and it makes the game run really sluggishly. Now, what you probably did not know is that there's actually more game speeds available, and you can only really set those using the in-game console. So first in options, here under the wrench icon, you'll have to enable debugging tools. And then if you open the console window, you can actually set more game speeds. So game speed 1 is normal game speed. This is game speed 2, which you could also select using the button. But for example, we can set game speed 5, which is a speed which normally is not available, and it's really fast, but yeah, this park can still run normally with it, which is nice. So yeah, there's more game speeds available should you need them for some reason. Okay, next up, there was a bug with the new dive loop track pieces in that they would not actually draw any tunnels. So as you can see here, now they actually have tunnels added to them. Here you can see some more variants. Also, next up, some more tunnels were fixed, especially those which had to do with inline twists. Here you can see some tunnels for the LIM Launched coaster. They don't really look very clean, they glitch through the walls here. Now, still some fixing has to be done, but at least it draws some tunnels now. And you can see the tunnels for the corkscrew and twister pieces are also all over the place. The vehicles are below here, but the tunnel would be up here. So yeah, definitely some fixes were in order. And yeah, I think most of these situations have now actually been fixed. Speaking of which, the next change or the next fix in the list actually has to do with these glitchy LIM Launched coaster pieces. This is what it used to look like, but it has actually been fixed, and now they no longer draw through the land edge here. Okay, yeah, for the next bug, I'm on an old version again, and here we have a queue line. Near in the cheats we can find the tile inspector, and if we then select this queue line, normally you can only connect 2 edges on a queue line footpath, but with the tile inspector we can actually set more of these edges. And some really weird stuff happens when we select more of these corners. You can see it actually displays a cogwheel over here with some weird colors. It's actually blinking, so I think it actually used the chain lift color now. Yeah, that's just, definitely not something which is supposed to happen. Okay, here we are in a newer version again. Let's try the same. As you can see, the queue line piece still turns invisible, which is to be expected since it doesn't have a sprite for a queue path with all these connected edges. But at least it doesn't show these random sprites anymore. Alright, here's a functionality which is pretty useful if you're trying to copy something which you already built earlier somewhere else in the park. So if you hold the map icon here, you can see extra viewport, and it basically just opens an extra window over here. For example, if I wanted to build another one of these lighthouses over here in the park, would be a pretty weird location, but then here in the viewport I can see exactly what I did, and it would definitely be easier to copy everything over here as well. Now you also see these buttons here for zooming in, zooming out, and yeah, when zooming in and out using these buttons, it would not actually be centered on the center of the viewport. So if you press the buttons, it would actually shift to the left or right a little bit. But as you can see, it now no longer does that, so you can zoom in and out to your heart's content. Alright, that was a bug with the hybrid coaster. If you build a quarter loop underground, you could actually see it through the wall. But that has now been fixed, so it should now stay inside the tunnel. Alright, and finally, in some specific configurations of land edges and water, some of the land edges would actually be missing. As you can see over here, there's actually a gap to the side of the water. But that has now been fixed, so you should now see a proper land edge wall over here next to the water. And it can no longer leak out. Alright, those were some of the most exciting changes, fixes and improvements that have been done in this release version of OpenRCT2. Yeah, as you can see, the list of changes was really long in this release version. You can find all of them in the changelog in the video description. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, please give the video a like. It would really help out my channel. I would love to hear what you think of this release in the comments. And if you want to stay updated on OpenRCT2 developments, you can always subscribe to my channel. Alright, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you again in the next one. See you later.